What if I told you that Durin changes everything, but has a major issue? So here's everything you need to know about Durin at the moment. Durin is a dragon from Mondstadt who has two dragon forms, white and black. And obviously, Hoyo, being Hoyo, decided to make the white form better than the black one. Even though the latter does have some use cases, but it's not as versatile as the white one. Anyway, before we discuss his kit, let me first mention his general rotation, which will help you understand his kit better. You begin by pressing the skill button, then press it again and follow it up with a burst. Another rotation is just a slightly modified version of this with skill, normal attack and burst. Now I know these rotations didn't make sense to you at the moment, so I'll have these on screen while explaining his kit cause that'll make it easier to understand. And with all that being said, let's get right into it. Starting off with the skill which makes him enter a special state where his skill is changed to a special skill and his normal attack is changed to a special normal attack. Now doing this special skill makes him fly and charge to the ground, attacking the enemy, doing 1 instance of pyro damage, gaining 33 flat energy and entering the light state. Now another scenario would be when you use the skill to enter the special state, then press the normal attack button which will make Durin do 3 pyro hits on the enemy, gaining 33 flat energy directly and entering the dark state. Moving on to his burst, which like the skill is of 2 types. The first type is when you do it in the light state, making him do 3 instances of pyro damage on the enemy and enabling a dot effect which does AoE pyro damage every second for up to 20 seconds. The second type is when you do the burst in the dark state, making him do the same 3 instances of pyro damage on the enemy and enabling a dot effect which does single target pyro damage every 1.25 seconds for up to 20 seconds. So basically the main difference between the dot effects of both forms is that light form is AoE while the dark form is single target. Another thing to note is that both of these dot effects have 100% uptime because the cooldown on Durin's burst is 18 seconds while the duration of the dot effect is 20 seconds. Moving on to his passives, the first one just makes it so that while the light state burst is active, if any party member triggers burning, overload, pyro swirl or pyro crystallize, the resistance of the elements involved in the reaction will be reduced by 20% on the enemy. So for instance, if you attack the enemy with electro while they have pyro, then both electro and pyro res will be decreased. But if instead of the light state burst, the dark state burst is active, then Durin's own vaporize and melt damage is increased by 40%. Moving on to the third passive, which just enhances both effects of the first passive by 75% if the party has at least 2 magic characters. But what exactly are magic characters? You see, in 6.2, many old units like Venti, Klee, Mona, Albedo, Sucrose, Razor and Fission will be joining the Hexen Circle and becoming what's called as magic characters. And each magic character, including Durin, has a passive which requires 2 magic characters in the team to be activated. It's essentially the same racism as Nordcry, but this time with Mondstadt and a fancy new name, Arcane Resonance. So essentially passive 3 just increases rest rate by an additional 15%, totaling 35, and vaporize or melt damage by 30%, totaling 70% if Arcane Resonance is active. Moving on to his final passive, this one just increases the damage of both bursts by 50% of Durin's attack, capping out at 1000. So to summarize this entire kit, you begin by pressing the skill button to enter a special state and press the skill button again to do the special skill, dealing 1 instance of pyro damage on the enemy, gaining 33 energy and entering the light state. Next, use the burst to do 3 hits of pyro damage on the enemy and enable a dot effect which does AoE pyro damage every second. Another rotation of his is to do the skill to enter the special state followed by normal attack to deal 3 instances of pyro damage to the enemy, gaining 33 energy and entering the dark state. Next, use the burst which again deals 3 instances of pyro damage and enables a dot effect which does single target pyro damage every 1.25 seconds. As for his passives, the first and third ones combined provide either 35% rest rate with the light state burst or 70% vaporize or melt damage increase for Durin himself with the dark state burst. And if you have been enjoying this video so far, then a sub to the channel would make you win every 50-50. And if you want to support even more, scroll 2 inches down this video and click the subscribe plus button to join the channel membership and gain exclusive perks like directly DMing me on Discord or even a Genshin account review. So now that we understand everything about him, there are some major issues, starting off with the most obvious one, which is racism, and that's his kit not working fully when Arcane Resonance isn't active. And speaking of Arcane Resonance, one interesting thing you'll notice is that during Durin's Dark Form is pretty much useless outside of 2 or 3 teams. Because you see, Dark Form Durin buffs his own Vaporize and Melt damage, which means you get restricted to teams where he can do those reactions, and those teams are really few and far between, which makes this form almost useless. Case in point, in a team of Nuvelet, Furina, Shilonen and Durin, the team DPS is around 90,000, and this team works because there's ample Hydro for Durin to wait. But to be honest, you'd be better off using Nuvi's current best team with Llama and Ineffa, which calcs higher at a DPS of 105,000 than the previously mentioned team. Another team where Dark Form Durin is good in is the Mualani team with Mona and Chilonen, which calcs at around 104,000 and is slightly better than our current best team, but even this team ain't the best one, as replacing Mona with Albedo and White Form Durin calcs higher than the previously mentioned team. Yet another team where Dark Form Durin works in is the same Chilonen, Albedo and Durin core, with Ryosley acting as a driver for Durin to melt. And this team calcs at the same damage as its current best team with Coffee, which makes it only a side grade. And speaking of side grade, another issue with Durin at the moment is that solo Durin comps are pretty much just side grades to current existing teams, like Varessa, whose current best team calcs the same as the team with Durin. Another example is Kinich, whose current best team once again calcs slightly higher than the team with Durin, so more or less a side grade. Now the reason I am mentioning all this is to highlight the point that Durin is good in off-meta teams. And what do I mean by that? Well, you see, in today's meta picks like Nuvelet or Varessa, Durin doesn't really do anything besides be a slightly worse side grade. But he's the godsend for off-meta units, especially the magic characters who are getting buffed in the next patch. For instance, Venti, who is now the best Anemo DPS in the game with his new buffed kit, but also because of Durin, because having 2 magic characters in the team activates Venti's buff. As for other units, Razor is someone who has overtaken Sino as the 4th best Electro DPS in the game after Cloran. Other units like Cleve, Mona and Albedo all have their teams start reaching 80,000 DPS, which is a respectable number. And thanks to Durin and the magic character buffs, other units who can use 2 magic characters in their team also reap the same benefits, like Navia, who got a slight buff with Durin in her team. And this is same with other units too, like Clorand, Ito, Lini, Noel and even Kuching. Now another issue which isn't really an issue but people don't know about is the fact that his targeting doesn't seem that good. And I can tell you that's not the case, because the targeting was an issue in private server footage and not actually how it works in game. Overall, I'd say that Durin at the moment is nothing insane, because he is essentially a magic character shill in my opinion, and that's a job he does really well. I'd say that he is roughly in a similar position to Coffee, the Clanker or the Deer when they were released. And just like how those 3 got Skur, Cleanse and Nefer, I feel will get his best team in 6.6 or 6.7 when both Nicole and Alice would have released, and since both of them are Hexen Circle members, Durin will be a solid teammate for them. Overall, I think Durin's strength comes from a combination of personal damage, rest rate with a near trivial activation, even though it doesn't last for longer than 6 seconds in case of burning, but I digress. The main issue with Durin is the fact that his Dark Form is kinda useless, because even though it does a lot of damage, there is very few situations where it's better than the White Form. So at the moment, the only reason I'd recommend pulling for Durin is if you are a Mondstadt simp and want this character who has been hyped since 1.0, or you want the old characters to at least get decently upgraded to modern meta numbers, or straight up if you don't have Mauvika and are looking for a replacement for Shangling, because both Mauvika and Shangling supportive capabilities only help the active character, while Durin with his rest rate can buff off-field units too, like Emily in a Kinich team. With all that being said, my biggest gripe with him is the fact that even though he has his own wings, he cannot fly and still uses the glider wings, which makes him totally unplayable.